Well, good afternoon, everyone. I am so excited that it looks like we're gaining more participants. We are going to go ahead and get started. Some others may join us as we go, which will be great. But we are recording this, so future listeners will also be able to share, and you'll be able to share this with your community coalitions in the hopes that they can pick up something from our conversation today. But I'm really excited that we have 3 of our campaign communities on board to talk to you about work that they're doing in their communities around the campaign focus area. So you don't want to hear me, you want to hear them. But I did want to give you just a quick little overview for any of us that may be joining that are still relatively new and are still learning kind of this campaign lingo. As you remember, the campaign's focus, our whole goal with having a campaign for grade level reading, not only in your community, but in our state, is to organize ourselves, to really align, stack, and strengthen our efforts, our community efforts around our key focus areas, these leading indicators of grade level reading success: school readiness, school attendance, and summer learning. So today we're going to talk about all 3 of those. Cynthia Walker from Gulfport is going to share with you what's happening in Gulfport and on the coast with school readiness and how they've been able to bring coalition members together. For school attendance, Allison Crain, our MDE Compulsory Attendance Officer, the mouthful, for Oxford and Lafayette County, representing the Lou Reed's campaign, is going to talk about some really exciting and creative ways that she's been able to utilize community resources to rally around attendance. And third, Michele Connelly from Vicksburg, United Way, is going to talk about summer learning and a new effort that they attempted this summer and some lessons learned around bringing people together, bringing groups together with common goals. So that's what the campaign's all about, and that's what I know all of us are trying to do, to bring people to the table. So I hope this will be helpful. Just as a, that's not me, sorry. Just as by way of a reminder, this bingo card, our trip to Denver was quite a success. Our campaign communities that were present, I think we all learned enough in a week to last us a year. But this bingo diagram is one that you may or may not be familiar with. And I simply want to show you this as a means to say this coalition work is ongoing. This is not intended to be something that happens overnight. It's not something that you can accomplish by yourself. This is an invitation to get people in your community really rallying around these focus areas and thinking about what it would take to promote interconnected activities and learning and resources, going deeper with these focus areas. So with this diagram, you'll see the readiness, the attendance, and the summer focus areas listed there. But I really want us to be thinking intentionally as we grow as a campaign about how are we helping parents? What are we doing for parents to help them be successful first teachers and successful resources for their children as their children do grow from the time they're born to the time they enter school, to the time they leave 3rd grade and beyond. How are we bringing in health components and the idea that there are health determinants to school success? Do we have resources in our community that maybe are going underutilized or maybe unnoticed that could address some really key issues for children in each of these areas? How can we leverage technology to really be a resource for us, not just something that is fun and dandy like this great webinar series, but how can we leverage technology to really address these focus areas? And then lastly, the public housing piece. How can we really think about the areas of our community that may need the most support? And are we getting to those areas? And do we know that we're getting to those areas? So we'll talk more about this, but I wanted to give you this as some context as we go into today's discussion that it isn't just about a checklist. I don't want the campaign to ever become a checklist, that it's just Yes, we have something for readiness. Yes, we have something for attendance. Yes, we have something for summer. I want us to think about, are we really leveraging resources and people and making those connections so that the children in our communities are successful and proficient by the end of third grade? So as we go into these community discussions and learning about these specific communities, I just wanted to remind you some of these questions that come up that you can be addressing with your coalition members, and you can obviously reach out to me to help you answer some of these. But what is the campaign doing and how can it add value to our work? What efforts are already underway? It's not about replacing or duplicating, but really strengthening efforts that are already taking place that are valuable and have worth in the children's lives. What data and data sources are we using, and how are we using those to our benefit? And then thinking about, how do we find others who are interested in partnering in these efforts to advance grade level reading proficiency? And then last, a really important one, how can we ensure action and sustain momentum in these focus areas and in our work, so that these aren't just one-time, feel-good, great efforts, but they really are long-lasting and growing in our communities? So I'm going to turn it over now to Cindy Walker, who I know will dazzle us with her wonderful work and her coalition's wonderful work in Gulfport. So Cindy, it's all you.
I worry about the pregnancy going to your brain when you talk sometimes about those such things. But good afternoon, everybody. I want to just talk a little bit about what we have done here, and certainly there should not be a cookie cutter approach to this. It should fit the needs of any community. But way back in 2010, one of the points that was on that last slide was that you need to look at what your community already offers. In 2010, we had a group of business people come together to say down here, what can we do to turn around the economic future for our children? And the resounding answer was they need to be better educated. We knew we had a workforce that was not qualified for some of the high-tech jobs that we were seeing or trying to attract in our area. And so they said, we've got to do something different. A team went off and researched that, what that should be, and everyone came back with the same answer, and that was we should begin a 4-year-old preschool program. We had no money, and so if you're worried about not having any money, well, that's how good things can start. We had a space that we could establish a classroom in that was donated to the effort, but we had $0, and we figured out after researching those methods that would be most effective that you needed to have a certified teacher instructing those 4-year-olds, and you needed to have an assistant, which meant by state regs you shouldn't have more than 20 children for each of the 10 children with one adult. So we made a decision as a group of 6 business folks that each of us, if we had to, would write a check to cover the cost of that one class each month, individually, 1 month at a time. And so gratefully, we never, any of us, had to write a check. We went back from that conversation and we began to say to those donor potentials that we had here on the coast and foundations, and then we wrote some grants to say, okay, we can only do this for a few months, but we're going to see what happens. And today that program now has 7 classrooms. We're about to open in our 10th year, well, closing in on our 10th year. And so we've had 7 classes now for 4 years. That may not sound like a lot, but we were aware of all that was going on around us, and we knew we had to do something. So the group came together, and just more and more and more buy-in from our community came. I was figuring it up in preparation for today, and since 2010, we have had over $1.5 million donated through all private and local money. We have still not received any state money. We worked hard in this community to push our legislators towards the legislation in 2013 because we were looking at the data, and I'm sure in your communities, if this is an issue, you're looking at it also. We know that by just attending 4-year-old preschool, we reduce the likelihood they'll be involved in crime by 70%. What community couldn't want to see a statistic like that come to fruition? education. And we also started to look at our neighbors. At the time we started, Alabama was the lower funder for early childhood. They were only putting $19 million in. Get that, only $19 million. In 2013, our state put for the first time $3 million, and geez, were we not all celebrating, because that was great. We didn't get any on the coast, and we still haven't gotten any on the coast, and that's okay for now. Someday that's going to change, we feel strongly. But it is one of those things that you begin to say, okay, if you want it badly enough, it's just like in your household, you find ways to make these things happen. And we brought the right people to the table, which was an important thing for anybody to try to do when you're going about starting a new project. We have partners, we have politicians, we have teachers and superintendents, and then we have grandparents who didn't feel like they could provide for their own children in a sufficient way as they were growing up, and they want to get involved. And so it's grown from there. School readiness is not just about getting educational and academic skills down pat. We know it's also about teaching those parents. And so it has grown for us into areas like Excel by 5. Out of that initiative and focus, we then as a community came together, and we're about to be recertified. Our second certification process is concluding this month. And then we got involved in GLR in 2012. GLR has allowed us to network with a lot of other folks across this country, and in the process to be recognized. We've been a pace setter now community-wise for 3 years in a row, and that means something. It means that we're one of, Ashley helped me, 39 this year, I think, that got that designation across the country. So you have the chance to really begin to shape a different future for your children with the processes that your community can involve. And so we have been looking at how do you continue to grow that. Excel by 5 helped us contact forward, which 10, we require parents to attend sessions.
Hey, Cindy, I think I'm losing your audio in your feed. Cindy?
Want to hit that air while you're waiting?
Well, we may have lost Cindy for a second. I'm not exactly sure, so we'll give her just a minute. Maybe it's just taking its time catching up. Can everyone see me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Fabulous. Or hear me, for that matter.
We hear you.
Great. Okay, we're going to give Cindy a second, and if for some reason she's having some issues, we may jump to Allison, so I'll put you on deck, and we'll come back to Cindy if obviously her internet comes back. I'm hoping it will. I don't know where.
Come back.
There you are. You're back.
The computer.
Hooray.
Sorry. And I know that's eating up more of your time at this point, but
That's okay. You were talking about you were getting into the pre-K forward part.
The pre-K forward class is free to parents, and that's been the big selling point. Obviously, these parents are saved about $5,400 out of their personal budgets a year in their families if this is provided for them, and it's high quality. And so we have now required those parents to begin to attend parent training sessions. This past year, we've been able to introduce Vroom, and if you all are still not willing to go out and check it, I encourage you to get the courage to go and look at Join Vroom, rhymes with broom, but starts with a V. Join Vroom, and send it out to every parent that you know that has a child between 0 and 5, because it gives them the knowledge to understand what they need to do as a parent to get their children ready for school and laying those pre-foundations for that. So we have seen our community. I think more than anything, we've been impressed with our business community's embracing of this project. They like the fact that there is a program out there. Some of our bigger advocates that have gone into businesses and tried to request funding and encourage those that they knew to support it have been business people that didn't have children in that age group, but they are in the workforce gathering mode, and they understand that it's going to affect their businesses as well. So we have right now a community-wide understanding of the value of this program, focused on getting our kids ready for school. And thankfully, we have a few school districts that are tracking these kids. And what they've found so far is that these kids come in with a high gain. Their average score is 544. Most of you that know this program for the state know that their score benchmark is 530. And they are holding those gains as they go through the first 4 years of school, which is not always the case when you look at some of the data like from Head Start. So we're looking at our kids. We are tracking that data. We had to find, when we were going through the CSAP process, that we had to actually get the State Department involved with calculating some of that data because it's not readily available. And that's something that we'd love to see change as well. But it is worth doing, and we're happy to share, happy to hold visitors to come down here and see what we have going on. Doesn't start back up until the week of Labor Day, but it will be in place this year. And so we feel like it's making a huge difference, and our parents do as well. So the message is out there, the availability of programming is there, and every year we go into it saying, well, we have funding. Who knows how? It's just meant to be. We have funding every year so far, and we're going to keep our fingers crossed so it continues to be that way.
So great. Anybody have any questions for Cindy about pre-K forward or about getting kind of that momentum going with community leaders in the area? Any questions about that? I don't think I have everyone muted.
I'm just so thorough, you know. That's all that is, Ashley.
Well, Cindy, this is Sammy. I just would say that it's great that you've been doing this long enough now that you're kind of able to longitudinally track, and the data points along the way that you're able to show that these kids not only are making the progress, but they're holding the progress. Right. And having been at it long enough to do that is really impressive. Congratulations on that.
Well, you know, Sammy, we actually had an independent researcher to do a survey and research those outcomes by reaching out to parents with students who had attended previously. We heard some phenomenal things. At least 40% of our kids were either put completely in another grade higher than where they should have been, or they split their day. Meaning we had kindergartners that were going in for reading or math sections with first graders and then going back because their parents most often were just not comfortable letting them be in an age group that was a year older. And so we've also seen the school systems have to meet those needs. In one of our districts, we had a school district that actually formed a multi-age group classroom because those kids, they felt like we're just going to bog down with the rest of the other students. So it's challenged our school districts, and them being on board, it's been a great effect. But they have started looking at creative ways to meet the needs of these kids. And they're part of the reason why this year we actually were able to get that grant and utilize it with Phil Harden to impact teacher quality. And we had 78 teachers in kindergarten and first grade on the coast that met 10 times with an outside consultant from Atlanta to learn cutting edge instructional approaches with kids. And that is just hoping, we believe, is going to continue to elevate those skills of those kids so that our goal is by the end of third grade, they've had a continuous high quality application of instructional methods, and their results right now are showing that that's mattering to them.
Fantastic.
Yes. Just from being a participant in a pre-K forward classroom a couple of times, I can honestly say that it is phenomenal what these children are able to do, how they are able to come in, and some, you know, when I saw them back in the fall, how much they had grown when I saw them end of January, early February, just in that short period of time, their confidence, the ability for them to communicate with one another. They're doing a variety of things, from singing and obviously learning their letters and sounds, but also writing, interacting with each other, taking turns teaching the classroom. So many things that are valuable in building these skills that we're talking about to help them be ready for school. Phenomenal job in terms of really covering everything, whole child, looking at the whole child. So definitely something worth seeing if you have not. So thank you. If anybody comes up with any more questions for Cindy, she'll still be on. But let's transition, if we can, to Allison Crain. And we're going to talk a little bit about school attendance now and some things that are happening here in the Oxford Lafayette community. So Allison, I'm turning it over to you.
All right. Thanks, Ashley, and thank you for allowing me to share some things that we are doing here in Oxford and Lafayette County through our grade level reading campaign. I am the school attendance officer here in Lafayette County, and I have Oxford City Schools. So just a brief little history of my involvement. In the spring of 2015, I was asked to steer the attendance subgroup part of our grade level reading campaign. So it took about a year for me to get members to organize our subgroup, and I know the campaign encourages the housing authority, and so that is one of my MVPs of my team, is having her on my team, because we do a lot of things targeted at the housing authority, and so it took a little while to get members together, and then for us to sit down and figure out what it was that we wanted to do. We had lots of activities, that we wanted to do, but to see which ones would really make the biggest difference. So we started the things that we came up with 4 ideas for us to do, and so we actually started those last August. The first one we did was the breakfast at the bus stop.
I'm having some trouble hearing. Am I the only one?
Sir. I can't even hear Ashley now. Oh, Ashley is muted.
Sorry, I may have to get anyone who's not speaking to mute. It's jumping around because I think it's picking up sound. Sorry, Allison. And Allison, are you talking through your computer or through your phone?
Through my computer.
Okay, perfect.
Can you hear me?
It's a little muted. I'm not sure if there's any way you can, I don't know where the microphone is. Let's see. I'm going to mute myself. Okay, let's try now. Nope. I can't hear you. Let me make sure I've muted everybody. Okay, let's try again, Allison. Nope, we can't hear you.
Hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the first event that we held is
Still not hearing.
Yeah, it's coming and going over here.
call in. Let me see if I call in. If that would be better.
Cindy, were you on the phone or on the computer with yours?
I'm on the computer, and it looks like Ashley's muted now, and I can't hear.
Sorry about that. Yes, Allison, if you can call in. I was looking, there is a 662 number that's called in, but I wasn't sure if that was you or not.
It might be me. I'm 662-313. It's Morgana.
Oh, hey, Morgana.
Hey.
I'm going to mute it just for a second to see if that helps. These things always work perfectly when you practice, you know.
Wouldn't be technology if it was perfect, I don't think.
I know. I think she's calling in now. That's okay.
Can you hear? Okay. Is that better? Can you hear me?
We can.
Ashley?
I can hear you.
Yes, I think
Okay.
that should work.
Okay. All right, so let me start over. One of the first things that we chose to do was breakfast at the bus stop. And so we do this 4 times a year, 2 in the fall, 2 in the spring. This event is when our members of the coalition, we're just passing out breakfast. Thankfully, we have had generous donors in Oxford to provide the breakfast. And so no funding for this is needed. We have done this. 3 of the events were held at our public housing at their bus stops there. And so the purpose of this is just to offer encouragement and say, I'm so glad to see you this morning, and obviously build relationships with kids. And so we already have one planned for this year. And even though I am not a morning person, this is probably one of my favorite and most rewarding events that I get to participate in, because if I'm out visiting schools and a child may come up to me and say, hey, you're the lady that handed me a biscuit, at 6:30 in the morning. So we are building relationships with these kids. And we, like I said, we do, 3 of them were at the Housing Authority. Another one was at another part of town that we wanted to target. So that's the first one, was breakfast at the bus stop. The second event that we held last year was Must Be Present to Win. It's parent night. And so this is kind of like a back to school night. Instead of the parents going to the school, we come to them. And so we held this at one of our housing authorities in their conference room in middle August. And so school officials, myself, counselors, I even invite people from Communicare, which is our mental health provider here in Lafayette County, to come, and we go over like the school calendar. I go over the attendance policies. We even help parents show them how to log on to their student's account, which, through their school, which we have Power School in Oxford. So to help them log onto their Power School account so they can check their attendance or discipline or grades. And so also at this event, we offered an incentive. We, of course, are trying to rally the parents. We want them to get excited also about, sending their children to school. So we offered 2 gift cards, Visa gift cards that one was for $100 for perfect attendance for that 9 weeks, and the other one was for $50, and that was for students that had missed like 2 days. And so we offered them to come back the day of the report cards. I would meet them there at the Housing Authority, and we would check their, report cards to prove their attendance and put their name in a raffle. And so we raffled off those 2 gift cards. Our thinking was, that maybe the family could use these Visa gift cards and, take the family to eat pizza, or something that maybe the family wanted to do to motivate them. And so our plan, because we do have city and county schools, and we did not do one in the county, so our plan is to do one again in the city and then also reach out to the county. The third event that we held was the Be There campaign. And so the month of September has been designated by our school districts in conjunction with attendanceworks.org, which is Hetty Chang's program, as Attendance Awareness Month. And so during the month of September, I personally go to speak to all 3rd graders about the importance of coming to school. And then also different things happen within the schools. If you are not familiar with attendanceworks.org, I encourage you to utilize that. It's a great website, and there's lots of freebies. Hetty and her team have done an excellent job of offering things. One of the things we did was like the robocalls, how the school, and it even gives you the dialogue of what to say during Attendance Awareness Month. So I don't even have to come up with it. Hetty's done it all for us. And so I do encourage you to use that. And so this month, we just really try to drive the importance of coming to school home. At the end of the month, we did for third grade, that's a grade that we focused on, we did We Were Here celebration. So the class that had the best attendance, the end of September, I provided, and some help from the community, an ice cream party. That's what the kids wanted. But I've seen other ideas like an attend dance, like some have like a dance at the end of September. And so anyway, we wanted to use this, to really bring attendance home. And I know the Department of Education did a poster contest, so I would encourage your community to participate in that. And I just sent it out to a bunch of my principals, and some teachers to their classrooms could get involved in that. We also, during this month, we really encourage like nurse, the healthy living to maybe make classroom visits, and if you have local dentists that do that in the month of September. Along with that, we also pass out a flyer of when to send my child to school. And this is something that I got off Hetty's website, but I made it fit our health policy, our school district's health policy. So we sent that out to parents because sometimes they may be, not sure, if they can send their child, what degree of fever do they have to have, and so this is hoped to eliminate any unnecessary absences. And then the last one we did was called the buddy system. And this is where we identify a child who has been habitually truant, or maybe their family has had a habit of truancy. And so we identified them and paired them with a school employee. And it doesn't have to be a teacher. We wanted to use somebody other than a teacher. So we reached out to like the library assistant, cafeteria workers, a bus driver. And this child necessarily wasn't a tier student. I mean, it was just a child that had missed school. And so we encouraged that buddy to see the child 2 to 3 times a week. And it was simply, hey, I'm so glad you're at school today. Have a great day. Do you need anything? So we did that. And also if the child missed school, we encouraged the buddy to call home and just ask, hey, is Johnny out sick today? We're just, we miss him at school. We want him here. So there's accountability between all of that. Of course, we had permission, letters that were signed by the parents, and we didn't allow any off-campus visits. So this was just done at school. And like I said, it's just a little bit of accountability between the parent, student, and the school official. And of course, this cost nothing. This when we came up cost nothing. So, in closing, to the new communities, welcome. During several our self-assessments, I have been able to look at numbers for attendance, and we really are, it's working. Sometimes it feels like I'm just spinning my wheels, but it is, and the numbers are there to prove it. So I do encourage you to find members in your community that are doers. I could not do this by myself. It is not a one-man show. And so, members of my subgroup alone are interventionists and nurses. And like I said, the housing authority, those are my MVPs because they help me do things, that I can't do alone. So, and also I want to encourage you, there is at least one school attendance officer in every county in Mississippi. So find your attendance officer and utilize them. We deal with chronic absenteeism and truancy on a daily basis. This is our full-time job. So, I encourage you to reach out to them. Grade level reading is new to a lot of us, and so with Gulfport and Oxford being the only 2, I've been fortunate enough to be involved in it for, a little, for a couple of years. But I do encourage you to reach out to those attendance officers and get them involved. So anyway, and I'd be happy to share any of my resources. What works in my community may not work in yours, or vice versa. And if you come up with great attendance tasks, I would love to hear from you. So maybe it's something we could do here.
Absolutely. Thank you, Allison, so much for sharing. And I couldn't say enough about how much energy and excitement you've brought to the area of attendance. For me, it's come to life seeing what you guys have done and how you've brought people together. And this is a shared priority among those in your subgroup, but also those in your coalition. So I just appreciate so much that you were willing to share all of those great ideas. So let's jump straight to Michele. You may have some questions about attendance, but let's jump straight to Michele Connelly in Vicksburg to hear a little bit about summer learning. Michele, it's all you.
Hi guys, can you hear me? Yes, okay. First, I want to take just a few seconds to tell y'all how extremely honored I am to be a newbie on the Mississippi Campaign for Grade Level Reading. There is a lot of enthusiasm and excitement that is hard not to catch by being a part of this campaign. Our community actually came together on February 1st, 2017, just to learn about it. I'm not saying to move forward, I'm just saying to learn about it. And the enthusiasm that took place during that meeting just propelled us to figure out how we were going to better align all of our efforts and move forward. Well, you know, you want to move forward on everything because you're so excited to make a difference, but you have to choose one at the beginning. And this is just from the newbie side because it is a little overwhelming, and Ashley keeps telling me it's a process, it's a process, it's a process, and we will get there, even though I'm anxious to get there on all of it. So the very first thing that we decided to do, because we had enough time in order to start this, was a summer reading camp, per se. And we had the people at the table that were very excited about having the opportunity to provide a summer reading camp. But as you know, United Ways across the nation, we don't like to duplicate things, nor should we duplicate things. So we were looking for a partner agency that was already having a summer leadership workshop that we were already partially funding, and that was Central Mississippi Prevention Services. So we were excited that they were excited to allow us to come in and implement a summer reading curriculum. So what were the first things that we had to do? Well, you've heard it from everybody. I think it's been the common thread. You had to find funding. You had to find money in order to purchase the materials that the children were going to be utilizing during the summer reading component of the workshop. I can tell you, I was extremely, extremely blessed because the Board of Directors of the United Way of West Central Mississippi allowed us to use some of our unreserved funds to purchase the materials. So this was fully funded by the United Way of West Central Mississippi, and was super excited about having that support from the community. We also had to find the key stakeholders to collaborate with. We could not do this by ourselves. Heard that several times from our speakers. You have to find the right people to come around the table and truly make a difference and make it work. We also had to find the curriculum, which is interesting all in its own. Then you had to train people, you had to organize people, and you had to get everything put together. And I told you the very first time we sat around the table was February 1st. So if you did your short little mathematical finger touching, as we all like to do in the reading world, that was 4 months, guys. We did this in 4 months. In 4 months, the Board of Directors for the United Way of West Central Mississippi approved the money. After we got the money, we needed to find the students, so we definitely aligned ourselves with Central Mississippi Prevention Services, who already had a summer leadership camp that was established. To further our collaboration, we worked with the Vicksburg Warren School District because the Vicksburg Warren School District was already feeding children during the summer breakfast and lunch free of charge in our community. We just had to iron out how we were going to get the breakfast and lunches to Central Mississippi Prevention Services to feed the children. And they were so excited about us doing this in the community. Not only did they feed our children that were in the camp, they also allowed the curriculum director, Tracy Gordon, to be a part of researching the curriculum to make sure it complemented what they were doing with Vicksburg Warren School District, and it wasn't just something that we wanted to do just because we were passionate about it. So Ashley, who is super, super, super awesome, I'm just going to go on and put that on the table. She's so eager to serve, so eager to learn, and is more passionate than any person I have ever met about reading and about making those connections with everyone. She worked diligently to find a curriculum that would best suit our community. Not only did she find us a curriculum, she found us a cost-effective curriculum. She found us cost-effective training, and she found us cost-effective pre- and post-test materials. See, my board of directors only allocated $7,500 to this process. I am proud to tell you that we're going to be post-testing children at the end of this week because it was a 6-week summer reading camp. And we haven't even spent all of the $7,500. So yes, you have to find funding, but sometimes if you find the right people at the right time and the right places with the right resources, you don't have to find that $20,000 that is easy to just push a button for to purchase per se. So I'm going to kind of tell you what we used. We used the dynamic indicators of basic early literacy, which we all know as DIBELS. And we did the pre-test and and we'll be doing the post-test with DIBELS. We paid for training for DIBELS, but we did not pay for materials for DIBELS. I think it was included in the actual training, which has been wonderful. We used Imagination. Vacation is the actual curriculum that we're using for students K through 3. It is so much fun. I have past experience in education, and everybody told me that I had to slow down because I wanted to do all the arts and crafts with all of the children. And I say arts and crafts because it engages the students in so many different ways. It engages the students through reading. That they are able to read, they are read to, they read in pairs, they read in small groups, they have hands-on activities, they get to do athletic activities outside that correlate with it, they get to do field trips that correlate with it, they get to work on their speaking skills, their writing skills, you name it. This curriculum gives you the framework to do it all. And they do it all through 4 focus areas, or 4 focused learning opportunities, 4 units, which were map making skills, transportation, travel buddies, and world travelers, all centered around actually taking a vacation and going somewhere. Which a lot of these children who are lower income children that are involved in Central Mississippi Prevention Services, they don't get to do those things, much less talk about those things. So not only did they get to talk about them, they got to take day-long trips that they've never been able to take to complement all of the curriculum that they learned. Now, the cool thing about the curriculum, in my opinion, is that it definitely gives you the framework of what you need to do. But if you put the right people in the classroom, you are able to diversify the learning. You are able to put things in that you think may be lacking. You are able to do all kind of things with that curriculum that makes it right for each and every child in that classroom. It is not a cookie cutter situation by all means. Usually the lesson takes about 30 to 45 minutes, which is very short, but you have extensions, and you can do the extensions like I talked about earlier in arts and crafts and enrichment, PE, and there's also the wonderful take-home activities, because you want to make sure that when the children go home and all they can do is the parents don't think that the children are crazy or that the teachers are crazy because all they talk about is pirates all day. They actually understand the reasoning behind why the children are coming home and saying our. I get it right. But everything is centralized around a big idea, and everything starts with a hook. And the hook are just suggestions. The big idea you have to stay with, but the hook is definitely just suggestions. And each child is put in the center of their learning. It's their responsibility to control their own learning, and they're given ample amount of time in order to do that during the day. For us, they eat from 8 to 9. They learn about reading from 9 to 11. From 11 to 12, they have a life skills where people from the community come in and teach them different life skills. From 12 to 1, they eat. And then from 1 to whenever their parents pick up, there's enrichment activities that definitely correlate with the curriculum for the day. And that's K through 3. After K through 3, there are also children enrolled from 4 through 12. And 4 through 12, we use the literacy circles. And in the literacy circles, we have fabulous books that were definitely suggested by Ashley and Seeley to use for these literacy circles. They're all Nobel winning prize books. They're all books that definitely get the children from 4 through 7, but we're 4 through 6 interested in reading. So it sparks great conversation. But in these literacy circles, each one of them have a role. Each of them know what their role is before they go into the literacy circle, so that they know what they're supposed to be getting from either individual reading, paired reading, or group reading. And some of these roles are the illustrator, draw what you heard. The discussion director, the one that's supposed to make sure that discussion actually goes along the way it's supposed to. The connector, how can we connect this to the real life? Investigator, summarizer, travel tracker, wordsmith, find all the great words, all the new words that you may not have heard before, and look them up and try to figure out what a new word that we can use in our everyday language. So using the DIBELS, the Imagination Vacation, and the literacy circles. And by the way, Imagination Vacation came from BOSSNet, which is a United Way in Boston, Massachusetts. But using all of those, we had to be trained. And the training was just so absolutely easy. And it's definitely geared towards the community and the teachers' needs that were in the classroom. And Sealy came down for a day's worth of training on Imagination Vacation, and a day's worth of training for the DIBELS. And not only was it just training, it wasn't sitting in the classroom, it was actually time that we utilized to prepare the lessons and to practice the actual training, which worked out absolutely wonderful. They would have come to us, except for we had a major flooding issue and lack of water issue in our community on that day. And Ashley called me and she goes, well, y'all don't have water. What should we do? And I said, well, we're coming to you. And she said, wonderful. So we just changed everything around and made it happen. And I think that's one of the lessons that I've learned through this, by all means, is you've got to be flexible because things are going to happen. But if you're passionate about accomplishing similar goals in your community, your entire community, and those resources, both people and materials, it will happen. It will work. It will all come together. Like I said, we did it under $7,500. Matter of fact, I think, and Ashley doesn't know this yet, I think we did it under $5,000. And that was even assisting with the salaries for 2 certified teachers in the program. We helped with 2 certified teachers, and then Central Mississippi Prevention Services covered the cost of the other 2 certified teachers. I do want to stress that, which I did not do earlier, you have to have certified teachers in the classroom. They're hands down, no doubt. It's lots of fun, and anybody could do it. They really could. But not anyone will know the needs of the child and be able to supplement the materials to help the children. So in each classroom, we had a certified teacher. We divided them up into 4 classrooms. We had a certified teacher, and then we had assistants in the classrooms that helped with the one-on-one reading, and it worked out absolutely beautiful. Some of the things that the budget actually covered was the curriculum, the training, the travel expenses. The United Way of West Central Mississippi said that we were going to cover the cost of all the copies and the paper that they were using to implement the actual curriculum. We purchased all of the books. We purchased all of the fun craft materials, which is what I really love doing. And like I said earlier, we helped with the teacher salaries. And Walmart in our community was extremely helpful, and Walmart helped supply a lot of the supplies that we may not have had.
Can you tell why I just can't slap the smile off of my face? Most every day there's just something to be really excited about, and this particular project is one, Michele, you and Shannon and your team just totally hit the ground running and have learned so much about what you would like to do moving forward. And going back to what I said at the beginning, sometimes it's planting the seed, but we want to plant a seed that we can continue to water and continue to cultivate so that something really incredible grows. And I know you both have really great plans for this to continue and to strengthen. So such a strong first start. I know that we are past our time, but if anybody does have a question before we sign off, I'm happy. I know the presenters would be happy if you have one from Michele or Allison specifically. Feel free. Now would be a good chance. I'll unmute everyone.
Michele, this is Sammy. You started the program, but you're still in the letter of intent phase, right?
Absolutely, Sammy. What we did was turned in our letter of intent, and now we are going to start the next step. So, which is the CSAP. And I would like to say, Ashley, even though we are still working towards it, Ashley has still been a huge supporter of our community, knowing that we all have the same goals in mind. And it has been a joy not to have to wait until that's completed and wait until you get the actual certification in place, because there's so much work that needs to be done. We don't need to just wait. So that has been.
Yeah, and that was my point in asking the question, is just so others would realize you don't have to have everything lined up and everything signed in order to start. If you've got the LOI in place and are getting ready to go in that CSAP, you can start doing stuff and call on the campaign for help.
Exactly right.
Beautiful.
Exactly right. And thank you to the Mississippi Association of Grant Makers for being our home away from home for training for Vicksburg when the flood did in fact happen. Thank you, Sammy, for helping us coordinate space.
Not a problem.
Well, in closing, I just want to remind everyone that National Summer Learning Day is this week, and it's Thursday. And whether you have an event planned for Thursday, or you've had an event all summer, or you have an event planned later in the summer, the National Summer Learning Association really wants to capture what's happening around summer learning across the country. And I want Mississippi to be well represented. I know there's been some great efforts to really maximize summer learning opportunities. So I'll be sending out a website, a web link again. If you have had any type of project, whether it was a 2-hour event or a 2-week event, a 2-month event, if you would go on and log this event using the link I provide, so that we can account for this and at the end of the summer celebrate how many different events took place in our state, across the state, I would be appreciative, and I know the National Summer Learning Association would be as well. So I will make sure to send that in a follow-up link, and I'll also send the link to this webinar so that if you want to share this with any of your coalition members, you're able to do so. I thank you very much for your time, for participating. We should have our next one while we will be on baby watch, hopefully in the middle of August. So I'll send out a few dates and we'll get our next peer learning session started. And I know several of you new communities have asked specifically about the CSAP. And getting some support there. So Ron Fairchild and the national campaign is helping me kind of coordinate some resources for those of you that are in the CSAP process. So be on the lookout for that as well. Thank you for all that you're doing for children and families in our state. I could not be more thankful to work with each of you, and you will be hearing from me very soon.
Great. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, everyone.
Ashley.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.